Welcome to Time Travel Reads. So far this month, I finished 3 books. They might be the only books I finish this month unless I decide to change my plans any more than I already have. I'll talk about that later. Now let's talk about the books. The first book I finished was They Knew They Were Pilgrims by John D. Turner. It's a political history of the Plymouth colony in King Philip's War. I'll go into more detail on the book in my monthly wrap-up, but I'll give a short summary here. It's a good second read after Mayflower by Nathaniel Philbrick. Philbrick's book is a good popular history that draws you into the events described, and Turner's book gives a more detailed scholarly look at some aspects of the material introduced in Philbrick's book. The second book I finished was Just Stab Me Now by Jill Bearup. It was my first novel of the year. To give some context to this romantasy book, I want to say that Books Like Woe recently did a video describing romantasy combined as a genre as basically being new adult with young adult tropes, slightly aged up but still young characters and relatively low spice levels. She describes romantic fantasy with separate words as being different than romantasy, featuring adult characters and high spice levels. Just Stab Me Now is a book with adult characters and no spice. I've written a short review that I'll share in my wrap-up. For now, I'll just say that it was fun. I'm glad I read it. The final book I finished was The Medici by Paul Strathern. I read this for the We Love Jenny readathon. She had issues with this book. I had the same issues plus more. Basically, the author is homophobic, frequently calls his subjects ugly, and portrays his female subjects with stereotypes rather than trying to understand their contributions to history. If I have time, I'll try to go back through the audiobook for quotes, but I wrote a short review of that one too. I'm currently in the middle of an ebook and an audiobook. The ebook is called The Puritans, A Transatlantic History by David D. Hall. I'm trying to decide whether to finish it. On the one hand, it's a chunk of a book. It was listed as 520 pages, but has turned out to be closer to 1,200 pages. If I continue with it, I won't be able to finish it this month. I'm also not sure if I need yet another book on the Puritans. On the other hand, it's interesting and it reads well. Other books I've read on the religious and political history of New England so far haven't given me the context that I've wanted. This book does. I've been highlighting things on every page. If you're thinking of reading it, I think that even if you didn't want to read the whole book, checking out the book from the library and reading the first 2 chapters before moving on to Hot Protestants is worth it. I'm not very far into the audiobook of Palestine, A 4,000-Year History by Masalha. It's definitely not meant to be an audiobook, although the reader does a good job. The title does make it sound like a narrative history, but it's more of a reference book. It lists pronunciations of words, sources of information, and various names that certain places have been known by in different languages. I was hoping it would be a good introduction to Palestinian history, but it doesn't seem to be, so I'm DNFing it. If I start a new book or books, I'm trying to decide whether it will be a historathon book or a project book or both. I've also discovered that since I made my project list while beginning to read, I am reading out of order. I probably should have started with the pre-Columbian time, moving forward through the explorers, read about the Dutch colony at New York, then Jamestown, then Plymouth, then the Puritans, but I instinctively started with the Puritans. The trouble is, I really only want to focus on North America. The books I have for the pre-Columbian and Columbian times are 1491 and 1493 by Charles C Mann, but they seem to focus more on Central and South America than I'd like, and I'm anxious to move on to the Revolution. I'm not sure what I'll do. Well, that's everything. If you've read any of these books, leave a comment of what you thought of them. Thank you for watching. Bye!